Started, guys. We've got episode 5 of Fuel the Fire podcast here. We've got our guests, Ben Willey and Andy Beck, two of North Dakota's, I'm going to go with veteran, seasoned instructors, maybe.
Old,
Whoa, old,
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 old.
yeah, old. Yep, that's fine. You guys have been around. I think I started instructing in 2012. Have you guys been doing it longer than that?
A little bit.
Little bit, yeah, a little bit. Oh, I guess we'll start. Andy, you're the away team. Why don't you start? Just give us a bio,
Yeah.
a little bit about yourself, and what's your passion in instructing.
I'm Andy Beck. I'm one of the shift training officers for Mandan City Fire, the center of the state. I've been there since 2006. I've been fortunate enough to be part of the training division for most of that time. And then prior to that, I worked in wildland fire for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Forest Service, and actually did some training with those agencies too when I worked there. So um, yeah, big passion is fire behavior and live fire and thermal imaging. That's kind of what I mostly specialize in. But
Yep, I remember running into you live fire, and then picking up your thermal imaging classes at fire school has always been
yeah, probably when
awesome.
we used to do live fire up in Minot when it was super cold and windy, and it was
Yep.
good times.
Were you ever at were you ever part of when the Wildland guys burned inside of
No, I
one of the
never was.
buildings?
We were doing structural live fire when they did that, but
Oh,
yeah, I
really?
heard it was cool.
I never caught that, but yeah, that would have been crazy to see inside. Ben, on to you, the home team.
All right. Well, my name is Ben Willey, currently a captain with the Fargo Fire Department, riding on Truck 2. I think that assignment is about to change, and I've heard a busier engine, so uh, I'm not going to look as rested and youthful as I do today
One that
in fire
rhymes with
school.
Schmountown.
I don't think it's going to rhyme with downtown,
Yeah.
but we have a couple others that are right up there as well. Um, Started with Fargo in 2003. And that's been the entirety of my fire career. Did volunteer for about 10 years concurrently between 2003 and 2013. Worked in the training division on my promotion from 2018 until the beginning of 2023. And then been back on the engine and the truck since then. Currently teaching reading smoke for tactical decision making at State Fire School. Just developed a 2 hour class called Just Five More Minutes, which are protocols for optimizing sleep. So hopefully we can help encourage some behavior changes in our firefighters and improve some of the health and learning benefits that we get from sleep. And then also incident command through the crap class that Chief Mangan and I introduced last year. So a lot of I've worked my way through a lot of hands-on live burn training, auto extrication, RIC, and kind of settled on the old man classes of incident command and tactics and things like that. So
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, Andy's gray and I'm bald, so that gives you an idea how
Yeah,
long we've been
true.
around.
I didn't shave from last Tuesday till this morning, and I was even getting gray, so I can feel you guys coming along. My youngest was wondering what that was because I've never had a gray hair yet, so it was
Just
pretty
Uh,
point to him and
funny.
say it's your fault.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's right. So Andy, let's work through a little bit of progression, I guess. You taught live fire and then went to fire behavior, now thermal cameras. Thermal cameras and fire behavior are you kind of working through the same thing as you're teaching those?
Yeah, I mean, I've just always kind of realized that I had a knack for explaining some of the physics with live fire, and I think if you want to explain like the basis of everything that we're doing now, like we're big, like search culture is becoming more important. So, we're going in faster and we're going in and doing work and we want to go in and get people. I always joke that there's two F's when we get to a fire. We flow water and find people.
Hmm.
It's like the two things we have to do. But understanding fire behavior makes you better able to execute those.
Yep.
And I think for a long time, fire behavior was kind of like mystical. People didn't necessarily understand it. We taught them the concepts, but they didn't know why. And so I think now we're doing a better job of explaining the physics and the science behind it in a simple enough way. UL basically made that possible, where we can explain those concepts and those people can understand it, and it makes it easier to operationalize that knowledge on the fire ground. And so being able to take that knowledge and go to a live fire environment, start with like a burn box, go from a burn box to a live burn to a full size structure, whether it's training building or required structure, and get them to see those same concepts happening. It's really cool. And especially when you see students start to understand and be able to predict the future a little bit and they know what's coming next, that's when you're a safer, effective firefighter because you're able to get ahead of what's going on. And then thermal imaging plays into that, just knowing how to use the camera and teaching people to use the camera to recognize the signs of what's going on and making to be able to make those decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I think teaching that fire behavior has gotten more simple in the last,
Yeah.
10 years. I think
Yep.
videos, I know, Ben, you use a lot of videos and you're reading smoke. Those are a lot better. I mean, everybody's got a camera in their hand now, so we're seeing these videos. We're seeing, I've said it before on here, we're seeing videos of a fire in New York live or something that happened an hour ago and we can dissect it. So bringing that back and instructing your people on those things is becoming more and more easier. That Palmer dollhouse, like you said, that thing is so simple. It takes
Yep.
2 hours to build, and the amount of education you can get out of that box,
100%.
and then bring it to the street is awesome. The what do you talk about, Ben? The volume, the density,
Velocity
yep,
and color. Yeah.
yep, all that. You can show that right in that Palmer dollhouse. So it is awesome when you
Mhm.
can show that to your people while you're instructing, and then you bring that to the street and they actually see it and they're like, "Hey, that totally made a lot of sense." That's
Yep.
super cool.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly when I started teaching reading smoke. It's been close to 8 years now, maybe more. And when I was first in it, the first hour was just the fire science, the adjusting to the modern fire environment
Yeah.
and understanding densities of hydrocarbons and synthetics and how much energy is present. Still have some of those discussions in the class, but a lot of that has transitioned out of the presentation simply because I think instructors like Andy, like you, Matt, and others in the state have done such a phenomenal job of bringing that science forward that our firefighters are really starting to understand
Yeah.
that.
I think part of it too, we're not having to deal with those older firefighters that saw it the old way. So we're just teaching it one way now, where it's not grandma's or great. I always call it. I have to call it great grandma's house now because grandma's house is
That's
just like
exactly where
ours.
I'm at too. It's
But
painful.
great grandma's house, is a totally different house. So
Right.
uh, trying to teach those older firefighters, they're not around. The guys my dad's age, they're not coming around and taking a lot of these classes. So the fire behavior of now, it's eating stuff up and it's
Well,
pushing hard through.
and by using the physics and the science of it and doing a good job of explaining that, that's the antidote to that. Because
Yeah,
what we did before is we just said, we have to do it differently, and here's what we're going to go do. And they'd be like, no, it's not going to work. You're going to push fire or whatever. And then there'd be a fist fight.
yeah,
Where now we're able to show in a laboratory setting in a Palmer dollhouse or a single plain burn house what's going on. And then we're able to take that to a burn building
yeah,
and we're able to do it. And then it's like, so you can engage these guys in a discussion as they're watching this actually happen. And then that allows them to start to realize what's going on. And so that really makes the discussion easier because it's not just hey, I went to Ben's class and he said we should do it this way.
Right.
And we can't do it that way anymore. It's like, no, why don't we? I've taken the most skeptical guys out and you go burn with them for the day. And by the end of the day, they're starting to, they at least understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And you have the
Yeah.
common ground to have that discussion.
They could see
Mhm.
that bigger picture of
Yeah.
what's trying to get accomplished.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Instructing those guys, and there's nothing better than being an instructor and maybe even having some naysayers in your class and then opening their eyes. I think that's always fun to be able to. And you're not, I mean, you could say getting your way, but you're driving your point home, your scientific point home that it is what we deal with now. It isn't fires of the old. It is what we're dealing with now. So that's always a fun learning moment and a proud moment the instructor should bring home and be like, yes, I did overcome some hurdles today and
Right.
educated somebody. That's always the best part when you could say you changed somebody's mind and educated them for sure.
Yeah, my goal going into any academy, any class that I'm teaching, if I'm working with a probationary firefighter in their first year of service, I want to develop a thinking firefighter. I don't want, uh, actually just had one of our probationary firefighters make a comment the other day that, oh, I'm doing what I told. I'm doing what I'm told. And, to him, that was kind of a badge of honor. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
here to do the work, man. And, talked to the battalion chief later and then talked to his captain about it. Like, hey, I really don't want to hear firefighters say that. Like, that's not what we should be teaching.
No.
Uh,
Right.
you know, to some extent, yeah, you need to do what you're told, but at the same time, you need to understand why you're being told that, so that when you get a bad order or you see something that doesn't make sense, you're in a position to speak up, and positively impact that fire scene or that vehicle crash or EMS call, whatever it might be that you're on.
Teaching problem solving is one of the things
Right.
I really strive to do as we work through new people and academies and going out and teaching classes, just problem solving. That's people are calling us to solve problems, and the more us as instructors can work our way through that, and that requires the instructor to think a lot. It requires that instructor to do a lot of research and inquire. It's just you have to answer a lot of questions, but answering those questions makes them think, and lets them think. The more they can work through that problem, the more satisfaction they're going to have when they work through it and want to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. So I like
Yeah.
trying to, yeah, a free thinker. I don't know, free thinker, but problem solver, somebody that can work through something with just a basic order is a really important feature too,
And
that
I
I like to teach.
and I think it's a great way to teach too. Like if you have somebody, if they don't agree with something or they're struggling with something, give them the floor
Yeah.
and let them talk about it and then go have a little bit of back and forth with them and let them justify their position a little bit and then eventually let them figure out like where they're at and then they'll bridge the gap to come over to where the instructor is. Man, that lesson's solid, way more
Yeah.
than if you just told them.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Let them think it through. Let
yes.
them come to it in their own
Yep.
way. Every adult learners they're hard too, so letting them work their way through it, like you said, Andy, just talking it through and trying to
Yeah.
get to their level or them coming to your level or whatever it is,
Yep.
and having that light bulb moment's awesome when it works through, when the breakthrough happens.
Yeah, I always, especially in reading smoke, I always encourage the students, um, to apply it to their agency. The point I make is I'm arriving on scene with 4 engines, a truck company, and a battalion chief on every fire, minimum 15 firefighters, a maximum or an effective response force within 10 minutes, maybe 12 at the most. How many are, uh, departments in North Dakota are doing that? Even both of you with your career department. So, challenging them to think through the tactics and how they're going to set their priorities. And then when they ask me those questions, it gives me an opportunity to work on my problem solving skills too. Because I'm like, Yeah, I never really thought about it because I just put that company there and that company there and that company there,
Right.
and then we have all of our priorities done all at once. So
And we pick it up and we move
exactly.
it. No, that's cool. Thank you, Andy. Thanks a lot. Ben, working through your stuff. You did live fire too. Now you're moving on. You're still doing read and smoke.
Yep.
Working on a sleep class. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I can. Yeah, actually, I got my start in 2007, so that's how long I've been
Ah, you
teaching for
did.
NDFA.
You went and carried that one and got the math done.
Yep, yep, somewhere in there. Well, and that wasn't that I started with auto extrication in
Ah,
2007, and then I've kind of built up my portfolio out from there.
I started in
Um,
hazmat at fire school.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to lose your
Yeah.
enthusiasm for
Yep.
instructing.
900
Uh,
slides in one weekend.
I remember
so,
you teaching that, Bert.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, so no, the just 5 more minutes protocols for optimizing sleep. I stumbled on a Huberman Labs podcast last year, 2 years ago, and they he did a 6 part series on sleep. It was, but all said and done, it was about 15 hours of content that I listened through. And as I was listening, I thought this would be really great to bring back to fire and EMS in North Dakota. Just distill it down to something that's a little a smaller bite to take, and then put it out there in a way that is applicable to our first responders. Um, so I went back and listened to it again. So I had 30 hours of this podcast, uh, and actually took notes the second time. So and then put this program together. I actually presented it for the North Dakota EMS Association in uh, January and February, or February and March of last year. Did a 1 hour, 1 month, and another hour the second month, and seemed to be pretty well received. So yeah, it's just understanding the pitfalls, mistakes that we all make with things like caffeine.
Mhm.
As as you'll know, maybe we'll talk about that more here in a bit. But we all understand that the fire service runs on caffeine. So
Yep.
uh, how to better utilize that to improve our performance during the day, but not inhibit our sleep at night. Alcohol, drugs, regularity, just different ways to measure sleep. So it'll be, I think, an interesting class, and I hope some people will come away with it with some behavioral changes. So
Yep. That's awesome. That is something I don't believe that has ever been offered around here. I don't know of anybody that's talked about that. I just reached out to a dietitian who is running around. She is going to come in March to our department and do 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and sleep is an hour, caffeine is an hour,
yep,
energy drinks, all that stuff. So
yep,
we're hoping to learn quite a bit from her to
good,
make those positive changes too. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah. It's I'm excited for it. So
Awesome. That's really cool. I'm excited to hear from that one. I'd like to sit in on that one too. That'd be really awesome.
well, it
Um,
looks like I'm doing it Thursday morning, I think.
oh,
So you're gonna have
bright
to
and
get up
early.
there early.
Yep,
Nice.
bright and early. That sounds
Yes.
good. So back to kind of instructing. We've been on instructing, but a little bit more about instructing. Talk about you guys as you've been working through your careers and the why. I think we've talked a little bit about this on the podcast before, but trying to teach your firefighters the why. That's the generation we're working through now, and trying to get that point home. I think there's a lot of questions on why do we do it this way. It's not like you said before, Ben, well, I just do what I'm told. Well, a lot of them, yes, they say that, but they do, I think, want to know the why behind this. So, can you guys talk a little bit through about the why when you're instructing and maybe some of the questions you've gotten that have pounded those points home a little bit better? Andy, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I think with fire behavior and thermal imaging, one of the best ways to do it is just have a conversation with somebody and you start explaining like the mission of why you showed up, flow water and find people. So then you start looking at fire behavior in that context and you talk to them about, okay, why do we need to know all these different parts of fire behavior? The reason why is because it allows me to go do what I want to do. If I understand and I can predict the future of what's going to happen and I know where that fire is going to go and I know how to keep myself safe and where I'm going to have a greater amount of safety margin and where I'm going to have less, then I can decide what I want to go do next as far as flowing water and finding people. But if I don't understand fire behavior, then it's going to make it tougher because I'm reacting to it. And so I think that's part of it is like, so as we go through each evolution, we're as we come back out, the instructor's talking about not only what they saw, but how it fits into the big picture of, hey, yeah, I could see a little bit of that rollover coming down the hall. Okay, so what is that equivalent to? It's flow path, it's mixing out. What's going to happen next and why does that impact us? Then if we flow water in that and we control that, now we own that space and we can go back to doing what we're trying to do. So I think that's a big one. I think the other thing that can get lost is when you're trying to teach somebody a skill, we give them the why, but then too often we sometimes overcomplicate it by putting that single skill in a big scenario.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we want to make everything as real as we can. And there's a time and a place for that. But there's also a time and a place for literally taking a hose out and learning how to move it.
Yeah.
And just flowing and stop, go back. Flow, advance, stop, go back. And you don't have to be in full gear. You don't have to be in a smoked up building and be blacked out. You can practice that skill over and over again and then eventually take it into a real environment. But whether it's doing a crib dump and looking for a baby or whatever, sometimes we do a good job of explaining why. But then when we get to the training, everybody gets like, especially you look at like a volunteer department that meets like a lot of, let's say you meet twice a month, right? For 2 hours. That's like 4 hours out of the month. So you have such a limited amount of time. If you can do some of these skills shorter with more reps, you're going to get people way more progress and progression than you are if you do one or two scenarios where they got off the truck, pulled the line up to the door, went in and it was smoked up and everything. They're going to get like one lap. And if they don't do it right, they're going to be frustrated.
Yep.
The other thing that happens is if admin's there, they see it and they say in the back of their mind, well, these guys don't look so good. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this because when we did it in training, the guys were struggling with that. It's like, if we let them just go do the skills, then we get it down and we get a bunch of chances to do it instead of one or two times where it's like so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. The crawl, walk, run, I think we've all been there. We've all done that. And that explains that to a T, give them a chance to get those down instead of, have you ever like holding a stopwatch on people just
Yeah.
it's just like mind blowing, and it freaks them out like, hey, all right, ready, go, and that freaks people out and they had a plan and that went right out the window the minute they jumped off the truck.
And I think the biggest time that happens in training is when we have and I used to do it, and I think it's the biggest trap you can fall into as a new training officer is you're going the wrong direction with planning.
Yeah.
So you're starting with what you want it to look like because you saw a video or you went to a class, and then you work backward to figure out how you're going to do that. And then at the end, it's almost like an afterthought of one of my learning objectives.
Yeah.
Where you got to work it the other way. You got to start with what do I want people to be successful at doing at the end of this training? And then I build the training from there. And if they've never done it before, I can tell you some of the best search classes I've ever seen where literally there wasn't even a building. It was Jersey barriers in a parking lot made into kind of rooms.
Yep.
Because you could go through and do those reps over and over again. So they started, Grant Schwalbe and those guys started very focused with what do we want people to do at the end of this 4-hour class? And then you build the scenario to match that. And I think we all get caught in that. Let's make it real. Guys hear that? Let's make it real. And so the next thing you know is we're practicing doing residential search, but the scenario we have is like we pull one of the bundles that's named after a city in the Midwest. Did you guys ever notice that? Like every hose pack is named after like a town in the Midwest. You have a Wichita bundle with St. Paul stacks, and you have a Cleveland load.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
like I've never heard of like a Charlotte, North Carolina
A
load. I've never heard of
Miami
an Anaheim
bundle.
load. It's like
Yeah.
all Midwest. But these guys are pulling a Wichita bundle off, taking it to the door, going into the building that's smoked up with 7 stereos playing Megadeth. You got Berg, like he said, with the stopwatch, and somebody's screaming at them that their baby's in there. It's like that's useful. And the way you use it is when people get really good at it,
Yeah.
then you put them in that situation. And then the conversation needs to be, how did you guys do? Well, we didn't do as well. Why?
Yeah.
Because we added stress. What's the antidote to that? We got to practice this more.
Yeah.
But you need to start with those skills just in isolation, reps on them over and over again until we're good at them. And then we can take it to a situation where we add layers of stress and a little more realism. Too often it's a trap of going right to there because it's a cool scenario. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, everybody got like 1.5 laps through it at training and it didn't go that great. And then you're not going to see them again for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And nobody's happy. They're
Yeah, for
frustrated. You're
sure.
frustrated because the outcomes didn't come
Yep.
out the way you wanted to. Like you
Yep.
said, you made yourself look a little silly. And at the end, the instructor's like, you're feeling silly too because you put these people
Yeah.
through it. They haven't crawled, they haven't walked. You threw them right to running, and things didn't pan out the
Right.
way you wanted it to.
I
Yeah,
mean, I always use the equivalent. If you want to learn how to train people, look at the military. I mean, naval aviation, they literally start with like you're flying a little propeller plane.
yeah, right. Yeah,
And you go from that to a jet to eventually you go land on an aircraft carrier. They don't
yeah,
they don't start with that.
yeah. Ben, you got any additions to that?
Yeah, I think going back to the the discussion or the point that came up earlier about the difference in response between my agency or me here in Fargo versus you in West Fargo versus Andy and Mandan versus somebody out there in rural North Dakota. Um, a point of emphasis on the why would be just to set those priorities. Again, I have 4 engine companies, a truck company, and a battalion chief. We can do life safety, we can do incident stabilization, we can do property conservation almost simultaneously. You look at reseal, you look at slicers, whatever it is. But for our volunteers or our smaller departments, they have to determine, am I going life safety? Am I going fire attack? Am I going exposures? Can I get this in the room of origin? Because they're only going to, in most cases, be able to tackle one priority at a time.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't understand why they're doing it, then it turns into, well, we just always pull a hose and put water on the fire, and then we go back and do the rest of it. And the example I give in reading smoke, we have a 2-story, it's hard to tell from the picture, but it's probably about 8-unit apartment building. There's fire on the patio, first floor, fire on the patio, second floor, and you can tell that the fire is actually extended into the apartment or maybe started and extended out. And then the smoke conditions tell you that there's fire in the attic as well. So the challenge that I issue to the student is, with your normal response, can you make a fire attack on 3 levels before that building burns down and then go back in and perform rescue?
Mm-hmm. You could set up the coolest um, prop scenario at your burn building, at a just a structure in your town, and if you haven't gotten the why down, if you haven't gotten all the small pieces leading up to it, like you said, Ben,
Right.
it's gonna fail. It's gonna just go down the tubes, and those firefighters aren't going to get anything from it. They're going to be frustrated. They're going to think they failed. They're going to think they can't do it. But you give them the confidence when you're building these steps up, and
Yep.
they're gonna get confidence, and they're gonna make a change when that time comes when they're called.
We had an opportunity to do a large acquired structure burn on a huge high school complex they're tearing down in Mandan. And before we did all the 1403 work and set it all up and had a really neat commercial fire scenario. But 2 weeks before that, we literally just walked everybody through it.
Yeah.
They dry ran the whole entire evolution. because once we put fire in it, we wanted them to go in there, be successful, knock the fire out, have everything go right, because that we were going to reinforce those skills.
Yeah.
So we wanted to build confidence, and we wanted to take those skills and put it in a reduced visibility, hot environment.
Yep.
But we
Real
didn't want
life.
them practicing those skills in that environment. That would have never
Yep.
worked.
Yep.
So it seemed like a really, really, really watered down training, and there was probably people grumbling because we're literally just walking through this stuff. But it made that burn go really well. Everybody was successful. They
Yep.
got to have a full-blown evolution of it going right. And so we built that muscle memory, we built that skill set. But it took stepping back and having that dry run before that and explaining why we're doing this, that this is simulating this kind of a scenario. How do we solve that problem? We talked a lot about that in the dry run, so they understood why we were doing everything. And then when it came to the fire, it went awesome.
Yeah. Yep. That's something you can't beat. Like you said, you may have watered it down, but the goals were met, the objectives were met. They got heat on them. They got low visibility. They got to put fire out, and everybody was safe, and there was confidence built. So that sounds like a big win, in my mind. So that's really cool.
Similarly, active shooter in the metro area. Uh, 6, 7 years ago, it was every couple of years you'd get uh, DES money to run a drill. They'd run a drill. We'd perform horribly.
Hmm.
Right.
We all meet up and go, "Hey, everybody did a great job."
Yeah.
Sounds
When we
like an
leave,
airport evaluation.
exactly.
Same thing.
Uh, and it was right around the time I was coming into training, and we had enough forward thinking in our administration to recognize that, we're not, this evaluation that we're doing every couple of years is not adequate for developing our response within the metro area. And since that time, I was a big part of it for my time in training. Matt still is with his position over in West Fargo. We've developed a very robust training program for active shooter that I think has addressed the why, really broke down those parts. And I would put, I don't want to, but I would put us up in the metro against almost anybody in the country in our active shooter response right now.
Yeah, and that's because we pieced it together.
Yep.
Captain Petzinger over there has done an amazing job piecing things together. Just like Andy said, we're not just throwing them at the wolves. It is we're going to work on this piece this month, this piece this month, and then in June we're going to put it together. And then later in the winter we're going to work on this and we're going to work on that, and then we're going to bring more victims in and stuff like that. So it has progressed, and I think that yes, we were 7 years ago, I don't even know if crawling was the right thing from
No.
some of the drills that I heard of, but now it's the crews are running so seamlessly no matter what, just because of the way that it's been brought up through the ranks of training, and the passion that everybody's been putting into it, and knowing that it's something that's got to be trained on as well, I think has helped too.
Well,
So,
and it's something you have to do, right? I mean, it's a possibility, and we're going to respond to it.
yep.
And like anything, if we don't do a good job in training and build that confidence, it's going to cause fear and apprehension when people think about responding to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you look at incidents like Pulse nightclub and stuff, there was agency hesitation and individual hesitation. That's built from agencies that didn't successfully practice
Yep.
the skills to the point where the people were like confident that they could go apply that.
Yep.
And then you end up struggling. So you want people to be like, when that call comes in, they're on the way out to the truck, they're jumping in, they're like, let's go
Yep.
work
We could do
because
it.
we know how to do this.
That should be every call, that
Yes.
should be everything. That's what part of being that training officer is, to touch all aspects of
Yep.
what we're going to deal with. And it shouldn't just be, oh, we're really good at extrication. We got a lot of cars, we're a lot of cars, really great on extrication. And that's five of our calls a year, where we've got to get pretty good at everything, where the jack of all trades and masters of none, I think is what what we are. So getting your fingers on everything is what that training officer needs needs to be a part of and needs to be pushing towards in your department too. Well, cool. That's a great discussion, guys. Thank you very much. Let's move on. I'm willing to guess there's not, well, there's probably more than I think, I guess, but not a lot of know that you guys have written some articles for fire engineering, right?
I've
Fire
done some
rescue.
for fire engineering, but a lot for fire rescue one.
Fire rescue one. Sorry, I should have written that down. My bad. Do you guys want to dig a little bit deeper into your firefighter three?
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
start out. Ben's getting rehydrated here.
Yeah.
So, one person's missing, Matt Hennessy, works in Mandan, and we would always be joking when something would happen with a new person, whether it was volunteer or career, they would do something, whether it was leave something on the bumper of the truck. Anything, those typical things that we all talk about. And Matt would always joke it's firefighter three. It's all the things you don't know when you start on the fire department. And it's geared a little bit more probably to career, but it's applicable to both. But it's you go through firefighter one and two and you know how to do all those things and you learned all these really cool skills and all this knowledge. And you show up for work the first day and you realize there's this pretty big gap between what you learned in the academy and what you need to know when you start working on shift. And so we started talking, and it's like when you look at, like, let's use the bumper for the example. It's happened in our department. It's happened to me. As soon as we started talking about this, Ben's like, "Hey, I got a story for you." Helmet being on a bumper and
Yeah.
disappearing,
Yeah.
and like, but do we talk? Nobody ever teaches this stuff in the academy.
Yeah.
So the reason why we got into it was partly humorous because Matt would always go, "There you go, firefighter three." Then eventually we were like, "Wait a minute, we should make this into something." But I'll let Ben talk about the more serious side of it is like we bring people into the fire service, and then our favorite thing to do is to find things wrong with them. Like, oh, did you see what so and so did over the probie over on B shift? Yeah, that kid's a tool. It's like, well, no, he's not a tool. He just didn't know what chair to sit in at
Yeah.
supper. Like he didn't know that the driver that's been there for 28 years always sits in that spot. Like no one knows that. But nobody told him that that was something that he should ask about.
Yeah.
So he stumbles on his first day. And so it kind of comes to mentorship.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really really what intrigued me about it. Andy has a better grasp on humor and delivery, I think, than I do, but just the benefit of being that mentor, recognizing some of those mistakes, and then uh, sharing your failures with those individuals to show that, you know what, in 20 years, you'll still be here.
Yeah.
You'll still be a firefighter or a captain or a chief for this organization. This is not going to define you, this simple failure. You're going to catch a load of crap for it. You'll probably develop a nickname, uh, but but you will persevere. You will move on. I do need to point out, Andy, since you brought up the bumper, in the last year, not once, but twice, I've had people stop because my bunker coat, was on the street. And that's since we've
Yeah.
written this article and been
Yeah.
talking about this. I'm like, all right, I need to find a new spot to store my gear before I get on the apparatus. So,
And that was really like once we started talking about it, I've been fortunate to be involved in some national training programs for other topics. And you'd start mentioning this stuff, and people and everybody in the room would be like, "Oh, yeah, that happened to me." So it's like, well, wait a minute. We're all doing these things. We're all having these people make these mistakes. Like, let's try to get out in front of it and try to smooth that transition in to when you show up at the firehouse the first day, whether you're showing up for your first training on a volunteer department or your first shift with your new shift mates on a full-time department, that we don't just like, I mean, we literally just scatter landmines around and then we just laugh as they step on them. It's like, no, guys, let's try to give these guys a path to be successful. And like Ben said, it teaches humility. And we've had this conversation among our cadre. Bismarck and Mandan does a combined academy and Bismarck Rural now for our full-time staff. And we've had this conversation with the instructor cadre, like not to minimize what we do, but it's really not that hard to teach somebody to be a firefighter. It's pretty
Yeah,
simple. It's a relatively simple job. We have a plan for almost everything you're going to go to.
every day. Yep.
Yeah. And so what's important is somebody who's willing to be vulnerable, somebody who's willing to learn, they want to work hard and they want to put the time in, but that ability to be vulnerable and be like, look, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I need and being willing to ask for help is huge. And so I think firefighter 3 helps with that because we eliminate some of the mistakes, but then like Ben said, you also see right from the beginning that we're sharing this stuff because it's happened to other people. And so we'll have to do this again and get Hennessy on here because he's the king of like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like that was always his line. And he was super successful when he started, even though he came in not being like a guy who like took lawnmowers apart and could fix them. You know, he like we always used to have all the tradesmen in the fire service. Like he's always like, my dad was a bank vice president. Like if our mower broke, we took it to the repair shop. He's like,
Be the guy.
I didn't grow up framing houses and doing so, and we're getting a lot of those people in now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
And so being able to just look for those personalities and let them and teach them to be vulnerable and just ask for help. And it's like, yeah, we'll show you how to do that. Not everyone has done these hands-on things before.
I think bringing that back to instructing too, being an instructor, I mean, we're trying our hardest to know everything there is about everything, but it is impossible. It is
Right.
impossible for one single instructor in one town to be able to cover all this. So having the humility and the know-how of you do need to ask for help. You do have those guys that have built houses. You do have those guys that have driven semis. Use those people in your department, as much as you can to help out. When those trainings come up, those are the people that you have at your fingertips that
Right.
are better than you. As an instructor, it is so important to realize that there are people that are smarter than you. There are people that are better than you.
The people you're teaching are probably going to end up smarter than you if it all goes
Yes,
right.
yeah, that's the goal. That
Hopefully.
is
Yeah.
100% the goal, is to just give them all the information that you've got in your mind. If you're holding some stuff back, what is it? Knowledge is power stuff,
Right.
that's a bunch of BS in the fire
Yep.
service. You've got to be able to give that to all these people, old and young, new and old, give every drop of information you got to them so they can make themselves better and make other people better too. They may be in your shoes someday trying to
Yeah.
teach people, so
Well, and I'll show just so people can see it. I don't know if it'll focus, but
Pretty
back it
blurry.
up.
Yeah.
it's at firefighter_3 on Instagram
There it is.
is our account. So check it out on the social, and then there'll be more content coming too. We got some videos coming with Fire Rescue One. The other funny thing with this is they reached out to us now to start doing some videos for recruits, and it's hilarious because the topics were how to make coffee, doing laundry, washing the truck, cleaning up and tidying up your locker and like your space, like your bed area. And it's like they're having chiefs say like people don't know this stuff when they come in.
Yeah.
And that Devin in our department talks about all the time when he started in his first full-time department. You might even remember too, Berg. There was like a half day of like writing down how to use the washing machine
Oh,
and
yep.
how to
That
use the
was that was
dishwasher.
one of
It's
our BCs, walked us around and showed
yeah,
us how to use the washing machine. And you want to know something? That washing machine rarely broke. That
right,
that thing was in pristine condition because everybody knew how to run it.
right.
Yep.
And so that's like some of the things that like if a department doesn't have those, and a lot of times we don't have training programs for that. Like we get
No.
somebody new in and we're so focused on like all the fire department stuff, which is great, but like that, yeah,
Yeah,
there it
there it
is.
is. Yeah.
But it's funny because like we got all that to worry about, and we're worried about training them and getting dialed in on the 10% of our day. So the other
Yep.
90% is kind of where firefighter 3 comes in, and we're just trying to help people out. So
Yeah. Hawking was a
yeah, he
legend.
was a legend.
Yep.
There's no doubt.
And if I could bring the mood down a little bit, with the same concept applies to peer support. So when we look at the mental health of our firefighters, and I'll bring it back around to humility here too, if you remind me at the end. But then one of the messages we really do try to get across in peer support is you're going to be in the shit at some point, and you're going to see some things that you're just not going to be able to live past. But guess what? We've all been there. Here are my stories.
Yep.
Um, and I'm still here. I'm able to get through that. I'm able to still enjoy coming to work. I enjoy the opportunity to mentor and teach and just serve the community in some way. And I feel like that firefighter 3 message is very much the same as what we're spilling there. And as far as the humility, the discussion's kind of focused on bringing the new guy up, but I think it's just as important to bring us as the veterans or the seniors um, down a little bit. We can look back and say it's real easy for us to look back and go, "Oh, these new guys, they don't know anything." When I was brand new, by golly, I moved heaven and earth, and I was the best firefighter that you've ever seen. But you
I
think
know I
back on the
wasn't.
stories that go, "No, there's my screw up. There's my other
Right.
screw up. There's my other screw up," and that was
Yep.
just day one,
Yep.
and they kept me here for some reason. So there's that opportunity to be humble again, or use humility, as Andy said. So.
And I think that humility lets them know too that like I tell new people all the time, like, look, this is a team sport. Like there's a grace in being a probationary firefighter. You're not really supposed to know how to do anything. So use that grace and ask a lot of questions, and no one has any expectations of you. Now you don't use that, and then 2 years in, you don't know how to do this stuff. We have a problem. But the first 8 months, no, man, if you don't know how to do that and you're asking for everything, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like we don't expect you to have it all down yet. So use that time to be humble and ask questions and learn as much as you can.
I tell I tell our guys that are filling in as officers for the first time, I said, guess what? There are 9 other people on this department expecting a phone call from you right now. If you're too embarrassed to ask a question again, call somebody else and ask it of them, because they don't know that you've asked that already. So uh, yeah, just get out there and ask.
Asking questions is so important, like you said, if you're 8 months in or a year in and still asking the same question, that's a little bit different. But
Yeah, exactly.
and back to the instructor side, ask your previous instructor. If you're in a small town or a volunteer department and if you just took over the reins,
Yep.
ask that instructor that was there for some help, or your neighboring department that you may know, or reach out to us at fire school or anytime. But asking questions, we are everybody's more than welcome to help out and get you guided in the right spot.
And
So asking
don't feel
questions never stops.
intimidated. Don't be intimidated by reaching out to anybody,
Anybody.
because
Yeah.
whether you work on a full-time department or a volunteer department, there isn't one of those that's easier or harder than the other. And I know everybody always says like we're all the same and everything, and it sounds like something like a platitude we throw out, but legitimately, like I have the advantage of having people around more, and I
Yeah.
have more hours to train with them.
Yeah.
But I also have to work around a whole bunch of other scheduling things and other things. Volunteer training person, you have free and clear those 2 hours on
Yep.
twice a month
They're
or
yours.
once a week or whatever. That's yours.
Yep.
So there's good and bad about both. And at the end of the day, it's not really all that much different.
No.
So don't feel intimidated about picking up a phone and just calling any department and saying, hey, can I talk to one of your training people?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Absolutely. They will guide you in the right direction.
100%.
Yep. All right. So one of the last things we've covered it a lot with humility, I think now, but one of the last things I wrote down to talk about is some of the mistakes instructors make while leading a training. That was one of the other things I posed to you guys. So I think not being humble and not being having some humility is a big mistake. Do you guys got anything else that you've thought of?
So I think everybody goes to classes with really high level, like high performing instructors, and they come home and they want to be able to be like that calm and confident and have that like delivery.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes what people forget is that comes with practice and it comes with a depth of knowledge deeper than what you realize that person has. And so a lot of times the person teaching that class, especially on a technical topic like hazmat or something, they're probably not going into everything they've ever done.
Right.
And so to realize that to get to that point, pick your thing you're going to teach and go so deep into that and spend so much time preparing. That's how you get to the point where people are like, man, that guy's just, or that girl's just awesome.
Got it.
They're just so calm and so smooth and they always have an answer. They never get shook. It's like that confidence comes with having, that it's not a 4 foot deep swimming pool, it's a 40 foot deep swimming
Yep.
pool. And it
Yep.
takes a long time to get to that point, but spend time on something you're passionate about and you will end up teaching that outside of your department if you
Yep.
put the time in and put the reps in.
Yep. For sure. Ben, any additions?
Probably do. Still processing everything Andy said. Um, yeah, when you're learning that material, you're really getting into it, um, anticipating a question that you wouldn't think could get asked. Um, you might not know what that is, but if you understand the material deep enough, you should be able to give a response. And if not, going back to humility, don't be afraid to say, I
Yep.
don't know.
I don't know.
I've never thought of that before. Give me a minute. I'll come back to you. Let me
Yeah.
talk to somebody about that. I know somebody that would probably have an answer for this.
Yep.
Let's reach out to them.
Yep.
Um, those are probably, and then just, yeah, fake it till you make it, I guess. You can sell just about anybody as long as you're confident in doing it. So, um,
I it's crazy the questions you get that will be on. Well, this is our 13th academy. Like we average 8 people in each academy. The amount of questions that we have fielded is just insane. You're like, I've never thought of that before.
yep.
Yeah.
And they still come. They're like, I've never thought about that before. I've never seen it that or th seen it that way or you thought of it that way. Let's call somebody. Let's
Yep.
let's go to ask somebody. That's a great point too. Oh, cool, guys. You got anything else to add? We're getting kind of towards that hour. I think we've knocked a lot of things down that we were going to talk about. So this was really cool. You guys got anything else to add?
I think just quick, if I could put in a plug, if anybody's looking for a learning track at State Fire School, reading smoke for tactical decision making is kind of the analog, and thermal imaging is the digital. So you're going to hear a lot of the same information from both Andy and I as far as fire behavior and the different things you're going to see on scene. Um, I'm going to use the smoke to describe that, and Andy's going to use the technology to describe that. So,
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a great way to put it. Those two classes combined throughout that weekend is there's going to be nothing better than that. So
and
check
then and
those
then
out.
follow it up with intelligent fire attack.
Yep, move
Yeah.
the intelligent fire attack. Rick and I will help you out with some other things. So that's a great trio that you can knock out. We want some hands-on skills. I don't think they're doing live fire, but we've got our engine company class, and then we do that fireground evolutions class where we bring in the search guys from Bismarck, and we put it together. We get a trailer house, and we're hoping to get the IC class in there to run IC. We did that down in the Southeast region, regional school a couple weeks ago, the beginning of November, and it was awesome. It really opened up everybody's eyes to have trucks to command, and they sat in their vehicle and did it. So along those lines, I think registration for fire school is going to be out any day here real soon. I believe they were pushing some stuff through to the instructors today, and by the end of the week, I think they're going to have some things figured out. So look maybe next Monday at stuff like that. This weekend is the Instructor Society's instructor conference out in Bismarck. I believe you can still sign up and show up for that. Myself and Rick are going to be talking there. I'll be bringing back, showing you how to bring back some fire behavior, and I am drawing a blank on what Rick's talking about. But Rick will wow you like Rick usually does. Um, this weekend too, down here in the southeast region is the regional EMS conference too. I think they were having a Black Friday sale the other day. It was just $100 to go show up to that one. So
Yeah, that'll
lots of
be
stuff coming. The school in Dickinson, the Defrost School, that is getting more and more full. I've been following them online, and they are checking classes off as they've been filling up. So if you're interested in that, once it starts to get a little warmer, get into those classes at Dickinson. And um, there's lots of stuff going on in North Dakota. Looking forward to next year. Keep it going, and I think people are going to keep bringing stuff like this around. So let's see. What does Eric got? The boss himself. Oh, thanks, buddy. He said three of the best in the state. Can't beat that. Thanks, buddy. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you guys. That was an awesome conversation. Good
Appreciate you guys
information.
having us. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Super cool. I think that was a lot of good information for instructors around the state to bring back to their departments. That's what part of this is. That's this Instructor
Yep.
Society podcast was to get in touch with everybody around the state that we can, and we are doing that. We're doing volunteer firefighters. We're doing full-time firefighters. We're wanting to reach every corner of this state and make sure we're helping everybody instruct their department, make their department better. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate your guys' input. You guys are two of the best that have been running around the state for quite a while. So I really appreciate you guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. See you
Have a good
guys.
night.
Thank you.